We have to train our hearts to be less sensitive. A trained and strong heart will be preserved from all forms of revenge. Businesses that don't become charities, don't become knowledge, and break ties kinship, even though they make money, all of that is actually a disaster. Opportunities for self improvement are always wide open. It's just that there are those who hurry, are late, delay, even run away from it. Be modest in life. Don't expect us to be able to enjoy life if we have deceived ourselves. What is left of us if we see ourselves as incapable? One of the characteristics of an arrogant person is that he likes to boast about himself and his family in front of other people so that they will admire him. Work hard. Allah will not accept charity except sincere charity. Don't feel meritorious or the most noble because actually all of that is just a gift from God. A sincere person is never disappointed with the good deeds he has done because he believes that Allah is all seeing and will reward him fairly. The fall of a person's authority when there is no harmony between what he says and what he does. People who easily blame others will reap the fruits of their actions in the form of failure in self defense. How bad is the behavior of hypocrites for someone to advise others to be humble when he himself is being arrogant? How beautifully the poets compose words, but only a few of their words leave an impression on the heart. A smart person will learn the wisdom behind every human mistake to learn a lesson so that the future can be better. The tips for a successful life in simplicity are calm, skillful, orderly, diligent, tough, and humble. When we are aware of mistakes, at that moment Allah loves us because with that awareness we will repent. That's when His love and forgiveness pour out. Worshipping properly and living without interpreting it as a worship is like living without a strong foundation. Worshipping properly makes us more humble. It is not appropriate for people to be afraid of the risk of criticism because people will not become despicable and lose their self esteem because they are criticized. Don't say Allah's help came too late. Maybe we ourselves are too late to pick up the help. Whoever wants his prayer to be granted, then join that prayer in the hope of Allah's mercy and worry if He ignores our prayers. The position of God's lover can be achieved when someone always tries to maintain a pure heart and continues to improve his relationship with God. Let's start with honesty from even the smallest things. Make sure no lies are spoken. Every word is guaranteed to be true. If we nurture hatred and grudges, then all the time and thoughts we have will run out, and we will never be productive people. The most important charity is the charity when we are in a condition where we are capable to do so. So let us not delay giving charity until the time is tight. If the convenience we get makes us further away from Allah, it is a disaster because we have failed to respond to that convenience. Every obedience bears goodness and happiness. Every disobedience ends in suffering. Being honest with yourself, not expecting others to judge more than reality, is the key to self-calm. Don't pawn yourself by deceiving yourself. The cause of the anger and disappointment that we experience may be because our desires and high hopes do not materialize. The first lie will give birth to other lies that will cause a person to lose his identity and glory. Perfect your endeavors and don't be arrogant when your endeavors bear fruit, because success is only a gift from God. Unwavering faith is the most expensive wealth, which is the most important capital to achieve easy in a life. A building without a foundation will collapse. So will life. We will not live successfully without doing worship with the right intention and according to the example of the Prophet. If we start the action by knowing the rules of the game thoroughly and then obeying them, it will save more time, effort, and money. A knowledgeable person is like sugar that attracts a lot of ants. He became a light for himself and those around him. Households that lack knowledge are households that are only familiar with emotional attitude and are far from wisdom. Do all the work to the fullest because doing something halfway shows doubt, and doubt is the nature of a hypocrite. When we commit disobedience, we are actually preparing for suffering. Only repentance can undo it. There is a higher value than prayer, namely the opportunity to change yourself to be better, more qualified, more brilliant, and closer to God. We must have the ability to eradicate all forms of disobedience as a first step so that this life is shaded by God's help. No humiliation will make us miserable if we make it a charity field to increase glory by forgiving and patient. The most expensive wealth owned by a leader is not his position and rank, but the compatibility between his words and deeds. The characteristics of a good leader will be seen from personal maturity, fruit of work, and integration between words and actions. Affection can be forced. People can pretend they are loving, but that way they will wince in pain later. The concentration of a sincere person is only one, namely how to make what he does get the pleasure of Allah. There is no day without seeking knowledge. There is no day except for increasing charity, and there is no day except for cleaning our hearts with heart management. Never ignore who we are friends with, because friends determine the good and bad of our behavior. Being patient in ease, success and praise is heavier than being patient in adversity. Selling promises is easy. Keeping promises is a trust. Don't promise easily. And remember, breaking promises is a characteristic of hypocrites. Often we are selfish. We only want to remind others, but are reluctant to accept input from outside, even though that is good too. The right action to deal with an unjust leader is to be patient, that is not to obey him when he is ordered to act disobedient. Blessed are those who never depend on their deeds. The body is drenched in sweat, hard work, but the heart is not 100% trusting in Allah. The most expensive and best inheritance from ourselves for our family, offspring, and environment is the beauty of our morals. Never feel noble by looking down on others. Glory to those who are humble. By getting used to living in luxury, indirectly we have provoked the jealousy of others. Make every criticism and even humiliation we receive as a way to improve ourselves. When humans are tested with adversity, many survive. But when tested with ease, humans tend to be negligent so that very few survive. Being busy in worship activities is a panacea for someone who wants to get up from prolonged sadness. God loves us with two things. In His prohibition, there is a bad thing that is guarded for us. In His command, there is a good thing that is given to us. Pride is not when we like to wear nice clothes, but pride is when we look down on others and reject the truth. The subtlest of a disaster is when our closeness to Allah is slowly uprooted, and that is usually marked by a decrease in the quality of worship. One of the characteristics of a sincere person is that he does not like to show off, and mention his deeds, except within reasonable and proportional limits. Good advice is true advice, full of meaning and beneficial to those who hear it, not false advice. Complaining and anger will not change the situation much other than it will make our own position more difficult. When we feel meritorious while others feel humiliated, that is a sign we are failing. Success is also measured through togetherness. We need a system to achieve success in this world and the hereafter. The success of the world should not close our chances of achieving success in the afterlife. Humility will trigger a person to progress more quickly because with that he wants to admit his own weaknesses and is open to various corrections. The pleasures of lust are momentary. No matter how hard people chase it, that desire will never be satisfied. The true happiness in living in this world will be achieved by those who have gratitude in their heart. Our brothers are those who are connected by a bond of faith between us and them, even though they are not of the same blood as one nation. Make sure we give charity today, whether with material, with knowledge, energy, or at least with a sincere smile. The worst human being in the sight of Allah is someone who is allowed to do evil as he pleases by many people because they are afraid of his crime. The despicable person is the one who is busy looking for other people's faults and spreading it. If you miss beauty, then do good, because kindness is a beautiful character, while sin is an act that is suffocating. The leader that this nation needs is a leader who is strong in faith, noble in character, and is consistent in worship in the way of Allah. Make sure our shopping transactions are worth worship. That is not only exchanging money for goods, but must have more value than that. Looking down or at those who are still lacking is an effort to remain grateful for God's gifts. It is useless for our money, possessions, and happiness if the people around us are still suffering from being abused by our behavior. People who have no knowledge are like entering the wilderness but don't have a map with them. If we can't share wealth, if we can't share riches, then share an example of kindness. Let's build this nation with a foundation of spiritual strength because this power has a firm and strong foundation. Don't waste the opportunity and power to do nothing because we will regret it later. The less sin and disgrace there is, the lighter and freer this life will be. Not afraid that something will be exposed. So take care of yourself always. If we keep fighting for justice, our glory will not diminish. Even if we are persecuted by anyone, personal beauty and nobility will be seen from one's ability to be patient with the calamities and difficulties that befall. Never think about doing good. Do it immediately if the intention is steady. A righteous rich man has the ability to manage his wealth for the benefit of the people so that he is respected because of his generosity, not his wealth. Educate and raise our children with love, because one day they will give us love. The loss of faith occurs slowly, eroded little by little, until finally it's completely gone without a trace. For that, beware. The most profitable time for a believer, when more and more days, the better his quality. Instead of accusing each other, it's better for us to work hard to have good character and prove it by providing help to people in need. For people who already know Allah well, then he will be sure that everything that befalls him is part of the blessings that Allah has given. When we leave good deeds at that time, we lose something very valuable for our lives. Good morals are fostered by daring to see one's own shortcomings and persistent to improve them. Seek the gift of knowledge earnestly, then the fruit of that search will be commensurate with our sincerity. Start every job with a good planning, because failing to plan is planning to fail. There will never be peace in a household that does not direct family members to earnestly obey God. Remember, life is a transition from one trial to another. Trials are not always synonymous with hardship, but they can also be easiness. Whoever seeks praise the world, his time and energy will be drained for it without realizing that death will come to pick him up suddenly. People who are sick with envy have characteristics, namely, it's nice to see other people suffer, and it's hard to see other people happy. Two characteristics of a true entrepreneur, when looking for it, really maintain fairness and honesty. Then, after getting it, distribute it for the benefit of the community at large. The provision for our success is good character, which turns out to be something that is so expensive and longed for because few people have it. The penchant for appearing and showing off luxury is the characteristics of people who lack confidence in their personal strength and maturity. Be careful if we are unjust to others who are trying to obey in the way of Allah. It can invite His wrath. Be careful for people whose worship is temporary, because it could be that these actions are signs of imperfect sincerity. Working hard is part of the physique. Working smart is part of the brain, while working sincerely is part of the heart. Work hard, knowing about religion and being happy to practice it does not automatically make us noble in God's sight, because the main key is sincerity. Consider what will happen in the future in the sky. How many faces that day shone because they saw their Lord, and how many faces were wrinkled because they were afraid. When we smile sincerely at our brothers, that's when we are making them happy, which means making ourselves happy. The weak point of man is when his mind is covered by lust, so that it makes him wrong when choosing paths and decisions. Have our minds ever been disappointed because of disobedience to Allah? Efforts to self-improvement are beneficial for building peace. Pray for as many people as possible with the best prayers. Then, God willing, all the prayers will come back to us. A Sakina family is not a family without problems, but they are skilled at managing conflict to become a fruit full of wisdom. If our hearts are clean, there is no time to think sneaky, cheating, or even spiteful. A people or someone whose life is full of hatred and enmity will never be calm, honorable, and triumphant other than humiliated and suffering. The fewer worldly desires for self-satisfaction, the more worldly desires for charity, the calmer and nobler life will be. A person can lead this country well if he is born in a good family, values glory, morals become pillars, and obeys as wealth. It's not satisfaction when we get what we want, but when we are able to give the best for others. The more we like to pray for the good of others, the more effective our prayers will be. At that time, the angels also prayed for our good. The pain we experience should not be used as an opportunity to indulge in order to get more attention and burden others. The advantage is not always in the form of material. It may be that the obstruction of the material is an advantage for us to gain more valuable knowledge and wisdom. When we do obedience, we are actually preparing for happiness. Schools prepare us for exams. Life determines whether or not we pass the test. The more worldly desires, the more it steals our thoughts, time, energy, and happiness. Even though happiness and sufficiency belong to grateful people. Hopefully, we are among those who still have sensitivity, because if we lose sensitivity, what we will face are difficulties. The best advice for humans is the Book of Allah. If humans have ignored it, where are they going to look for clues? Hopefully, the days we live make us know our Creator who has taken care of us. He is God, the source of happiness for us. Bad people are not just killers. A two-faced person is also very evil because he is capable of destroying even a strong country. There is no good that we can get from a division. So the key to avoiding division is to be grateful for differences. The more desires, the more enslaved. Always want to obey Allah. Surely Allah will suffice all our needs. How lucky if the people we emulate are people who are successful in world affairs and the hereafter. There are no poor or rich people. There are only servants of Allah who are entrusted with different fortunes as provisions for worship. Misfortune is a test that must be used as a valuable strength, not a weakness that will make our lives worse. When calamity befalls, then immediately put on patient clothes. With patience, the calamity that occurs will pave the way for the arrival of favors. Among the things that make us respected by others is because Allah still covers our disgrace, badness, and shortcomings. People who like to pit against each other, he imitates the devil's way when tempting humans to be hostile to each other. Brothers, the true happiness of the world does not lie in the world, but in our right attitude in responding to all events that exist. A person's strength to stop from the bad behavior he is doing will be one of the keys to success in seeking Allah's help. There is a limit to the ability of parents to educate their children, while Allah's door of help is limitless. Then accompany the process of educating children with prayer. Glory will be born from humility, not from pride that makes those who see it sick. Remember that you only live once. Worship is the pillar. Without a solid pillar, life will collapse, and you will never achieve true happiness. Liars will be imprisoned by their own lies. Honest people will enjoy freedom in life. Soaking in sadness will only add to the suffering because it gives the devil an opportunity to come with his whispers. True success is when we succeed in convincing that everything we get basically comes from the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Success only belongs to people who are very persistent in changing themselves, and there will be no change except for people who dare to see their own shortcomings. It is not uncommon for a lot of wealth to make a household impoverished by overflowing desires, ambitions, and jealousy. How beautiful it is for a culture of correcting, advising, and reminding one another in kindness, because that's where self-confidence will grow. Let's build a virtue because If everyone wants to destroy, then where are we going to find a place to live? It's not wrong for people to aspire to be rich. What's wrong is when people think that wealth is everything. The more we understand how great the award is from God, the less significant the award we receive from humans. Be careful if you see that the charity we do begins to weaken when given pleasure, because that is a sign that we are not sincere in doing charity. We will not get victory and honor from every hatred and enmity, but humiliation and prolonged suffering. A living conscience will make a person aware that he has made a mistake and is passionate about correcting it so that the mistake will not be repeated. True knowledge will awaken the nature of humility. A pious person increases in knowledge the more he is aware of the breadth of Allah's knowledge. Sustenance is not synonymous with money and wealth, because the most valuable provision in life is honesty to admit mistakes that have been made. A greedy person will not taste the delicious and sweet pleasure. He is like a person who eats, who never felt the fullness and pleasure of eating. Malice will not change something for the better unless it will change one's condition to be miserable, contemptible, and tend to wrong others. Don't blame anyone if our life goes down. Basically, all of this happened because we were unjust to Allah's favors. The household leader's duties are not only to control, but also to regulate, determine direction, and supervise the system to achieve goals. Failure is usually caused by one human weakness, namely the lack of balance between desire and sincerity in perfecting endeavors. Life is simple, always dazzling, because the mirror of a person who is not enslaved boasts is not deceived by lust. People who want to quickly enjoy results without caring about the process tend to lose their way because they are always toyed with by doubt. Fortunately, for those who are entrusted with potential advantages and endowed with the ability by God to use them for the good of society, be fair to everyone, including enemies, because Allah has outright forbidden tyranny. Let us not underestimate the slightest kindness, even if only to meet our brother with a radiant face. True independence is when we are not enslaved by the desire to be praised, appreciated, respected, and reciprocated by others. Freedom belongs to the sincere. If we have a lot of wealth, we will guard the treasure. But if we have a lot of knowledge, then knowledge will take care of us. Doing good for a sincere servant is to hide his charity from human eyes as he hides his disgrace. Many people want happiness, but often the opposite is experienced because they misunderstand the meaning of happiness itself. Sincerity makes a person bolder, stronger, tougher, and full of beauty. Even though drenched in sweat and sweat, exhausting energy, drain of mind, if you are not sincere, there is no value in the sight of Allah. Beware of expensive, beautiful, and luxurious items because they will enslave us, afraid of being damaged, lost, at least being enslaved wants to show off. Not every wish has to be followed. The right hope is that which encourages obedience and prevents the desire to act in sin. The benefits are not always in the form of material things. It may be that the obstruction of the material is an advantage for us to gain more valuable knowledge and wisdom. The loss of faith occurs slowly, eroded little by little, until finally it's completely gone without a trace. For that beware. Hopefully, the days we live make us know our Creator who has taken care of us. He is God, the source of happiness for us. Hopefully, we are among those who still have sensitivity, because if we lose sensitivity, what we will face are difficulties. It's really happy when every human being competes to serve, help, respect, and make his brother happy. It's often hard to repay bad things with the good. If you can do that, it means you have true sincerity.